we decided to explore Castle Tintagel, an English heritage site. This is an establishing shot of our drone flying over the area around Tintagel. The castle that we're flying towards is actually not Tintagel Castle. There are 3 castles in a row here. We will have a look at them all. This shows how beautiful and pristine the countryside is all around the Cornwall coast there. What we're looking at now is the actual British heritage site. This is the pathway that you enter the site through, and now we're going out towards the Tintagel Peninsula. These beautiful walkways have been put through, and you don't even have to walk all the way up. They do have a 4-wheel drive that can take you to the top if you are mobility challenged. As the drone moves up here, we can see the old gatehouse, and beyond the gatehouse is the bridge. Now, the castle itself was out on that, what looks like an island now, what is now joined by a bridge. There was a land bridge, but it did collapse, and only in 2019 did they erect this bridge. But you can imagine how impenetrable this fortress was. It was guarded by this gatehouse, and apart from that tiny little promontory of land, there was no way to get across. That white building in the front is what is left of the first part of the castle, and there were up to 150 buildings here that made up the whole Tintagel complex. Right, it was, as you can see, a beautiful deep water port, vital to the coastline's defence. So this is the island that's associated mostly with King Arthur, Excalibur, the Knockers, which we will discuss, also the Holy Grail. We will discuss all of these in more detail, so stay tuned. As we turn around, we can see the gift shop and cafe down the bottom there in the white. You do walk back past that. That's the old archaeological excavation site, which has now been turned into a coffee shop. And that's Castle Camelot in the distance. As we move towards Castle Camelot, you can see that not only does it have a labyrinth out the back, it has a helipad out the front as well. Now you can just see in the corner there where we were staying, we were wild camping all around the UK so we could go to as many sacred sites as possible, and we were in the big white camper van there. This is an overview shot of the Tintagel township and farms, showing you what a beautiful place it is. Tintagel was an important citadel and port between the 5th and 7th centuries AD. And was probably the seat of the Cornish kings. Later abandoned, the site became well known in the 12th century when Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote his History of the Kings of Britain, telling the legend of how an ancient king, Arthur, was conceived at Tintagel. A century later, Richard, Earl of Cornwall, built a medieval castle, choosing the site because of all its links to Cornish kings and to the stories of King Arthur. Subscribers, remember, check out our chat and watch to the end for your chance to win a reading with Shé D'Montford valued at $180 and many other things too. After being abandoned for nearly 600 years, the headland and the manor of Tintagel were bought in May 1233 by Richard, Earl of Cornwall, who was the younger brother of King Henry III. Earl Richard chose to build his castle on this remote coastal headland because of its associations with King Arthur and with Tristram and Isolde. He was placing himself in the long tradition of Cornish kings and demonstrating his power over the Cornish people. The castle had 2 outer wards and an inner ward containing lodgings and a great hall. At the time of the early medieval citadel and Richard of Cornwall's 13th century castle, a natural land bridge connected Tintagel's headland to the mainland, but centuries of erosion and rock had collapsed and left the headland an isolated island. Until recently, visitors used to climb narrow and congested rock-cut steps to reach the headland. Opened in 2019, the new bridge has transformed access to the castle. Looking at this vast chasm, we can see why they believe that Merlin's magic was needed to enable Uther Pendragon to levitate across this vast expanse and be able to father Arthur on the Duke of Cornwall's then wife Igraine. Arthur was then later taken away from the court and raised in seclusion by Merlin.
Merlin's Cave.
Just below Tintagel are two amazing caves called Merlin's Cave, where Merlin was supposed to have lived. Stay tuned, in the future we will bring you our experiences in these caves. Looking northeast, this spectacular view tells a story about complex geology and the changing shape of this North Cornwall coast. The slates and siltstones that make up the coastline were originally deposited in a shallow sea between 300 and 350 million years ago. Later tectonic events of enormous force caused the rocks to fold and bend in dramatic shapes. Erosion by the sea has produced an intricate set of bays, headlands, caves and islands, a process which continues today. Over the millennia, Tintagel has been built and rebuilt again and again out of this slate. The fact that the ruins still stand today show the foresight of the architects in choosing this building material that was local and affordable and cheap. Tintagel was a deep water port that served Roman trade ships as far back as the 1st century CE. Tintagel was a diverse, prosperous and educated trade city. This inscribed slate was discovered in 1998 next to one of the Dark Age buildings. The particularly large letters at the top may be part of a Roman inscription suggesting earlier occupation of the headland. The smaller letters below date from the 6th century and include the name Artognu. Although similar to Arthur, this does not prove his existence. However, it is a suggestion. The slate does show, however, that people who lived here continued to write in Latin, proving the high status of the settlement. So it was a smart economic decision for Richard the Earl of Cornwall in 1272 to make this his castle and home. It was a very prosperous place, and it allowed him to become one of the richest men in Europe. He also became one of the most powerful men in Europe. He profited greatly from the Cornish tin trade, using the money to fund a European campaign to be elected King of Germany. He was crowned King of the Romans in 1257, adopting the symbol of the imperial eagle, as can be seen on recovered floor tiles from the castle. Tin mining became synonymous with Cornwall. Many Cornish miners were very superstitious and said that the fairy folk protected them while they were in the mine. These protectors were called Tommyknockers, who made loud sounds and creaking timbers whenever there was danger of a cave-in or the possibility of a gas fire within the mines. The knocker, knacker, or Tommyknocker is a mythical subterranean gnome-like creature. They are described as being about 2 foot tall with a disproportionately long head, arms, wrinkled skin with white whiskers. They can wear a tiny version of a miner's garb, or they can look like an animal or a beautiful lady. They commit random acts of mischief, such as stealing miners' unattended tools and food, but they are always considered benevolent, leading miners towards the tin and always keeping them safe and away from danger or a mine collapse. Excavations, led by C.A. Rawley Radford between 1933 and 1938, uncovered the low walls of a series of rectangular structures and large quantities of imported Mediterranean pottery. Radford concluded that Tintagel was the site of an early Christian monastery. Further excavations in the 1990s confirmed that the buildings form part of a large, secular, high-status, Dark Age settlement. The building that he described as the main Christian church is incredibly reminiscent of 1st and 2nd century Mithraic temples. This does show that there must have been a diversity in belief systems. A small hut that was used by the site custodian of the excavations in the 1930s is now used as a halfway point for trekkers and for a cafe for refreshments. About 100 small rectangular structures have been identified across the headland, showing that there was a substantial Dark Age settlement here. When this area was cleared by Rawley Radford's workmen in the 1930s, they found the walls of several simple buildings. We do not know the date of these structures, but they are probably formed as part of the Dark Age settlement. With the collapse of Roman rule in Britain at the end of the 4th century, there was a time of conflict, migration and invasions. The period is known as the Dark Ages because few historical records survived the Christian book burnings and the censure of science. In the southwest, a powerful kingdom called Daemonia emerged, with Tintagel as its principal settlement. Circular ovens in the corner of one of these buildings was used to dry out cereals to prevent them from spoiling. After the death of Richard, Earl of Cornwall, the royal family did not regularly use this castle, and it soon fell into disrepair. Major landfalls at the beginning of the 15th century made the headland almost inaccessible, and for the next 500 years it was used only for raising rabbits and grazing sheep. Earl Richard wasn't the only member of the royal family who wanted to be associated with King Arthur. For much of the 13th and 14th centuries, English kings claimed their descent from Arthur and used stories of deeds to promote a chivalrous way of life amongst their followers. An Arthurian round table, which hangs in the Great Hall of Winchester Castle, was made in 1290 for a royal tournament held by King Edward I. Stories of the Holy Grail also centre on this headland of Tintagel. The word Grail itself is actually a Cornish word. The Grail was considered to be a bowl or a dish when first described by Shé D'Montford. There it was a processional salver, a tray that was used to serve a feast. Shé D'Montford described the Grail as a wide, deep saucer. Other authors had their own ideas. For instance, Robert Barron portrayed it as the vessel of the Last Supper, and Peder, son of Efrog, had no Grail as such, presenting the hero instead with a platter containing his kinsman's bloody severed head. King Arthur's most famous weapon, Excalibur, is sometimes conflated with the sword and the stone. Excalibur is, in some versions of Arthur's story, the same as the sword and the stone. In others, he is given the Excalibur by a mystical lady in the lake. Excalibur is more than a symbol of the king's right to rule, like the crown jewels of England. Excalibur is a mythical sword that was said to possess magical powers that associated it rightfully with the sovereignty of Britain. Traditionally, the sword and the stone is the proof of Arthur's lineage, given to him by the Lady of the Lake, not as some weapon, even though in various stories he does use it as a weapon. Excalibur is yet another Cornish word. Stuart Wilde, in his book God's Gladiators, described me as the Lady of the Lake, the angel Shé, and said that I was terrifying. So what is my takeaway from this beautiful part of the world? Yes, it is beautiful, but it is also incredibly magical. The magic is anchored into the landscape, into the rock, into its millennia of history. People have been attracted to it because of this magic in the area, and the magic remains. You have only got to go there to experience this energy, and magical things will happen. It is like no other place on earth. You can see why so many legends associate it with the healing of the world, the coming of the second Messiah, the awaiting for the rightful king who will bring righteousness and justice back to this world and restore balance. Because here, it feels like the balance has never stopped. The people are beautiful, they are magical. The term witch comes from this area, and the magic remains. And it is beautiful. It is so beautiful. So beautiful here. So beautiful. We have more coming for you from this magical area. We're going to do a documentary on Merlin's Cave and also on Camelot, so stay tuned for those coming soon. And if you enjoyed all of these, make sure that you give us a like and a subscribe and stay tuned for the magic. Every blessing to you.